Welcome to From the Shed End. We're live. If anyone is watching this, make sure you subscribe to the channel. First of all, make sure you give the video a thumbs up. Make sure you go to the description and hit that Linktree link in the description. That takes you to all our podcast episodes. And we should have an episode coming out in the next couple of days. Also, hopefully, if we can fit it into our busy schedules. Theo's on his travels again very soon. So Theo, first of all, how you doing?
Yeah, not bad. I'm glad Monday's out of the way now. Slowly getting that West Ham defeat out of my system, and hopefully this little post-match review will help me get it even more out of my system. But how are you doing?
Surprisingly good. I know I said it last year, but I said this year I'm definitely not letting Chelsea affect my moods too much. And I think last season I'd done well, actually. Last season I didn't let it affect me. You know, after the game, you're always going to be annoyed. You're going to be whatever, aggravated or whatever the case is. But this season, new day, draw a line in the sand. Let's just move on to the next game. Let's just admit. I think a lot of it comes down to expectation. And I'll ask you this question first before we talk about the game yesterday. But is it a case that some Chelsea fans, and this is on my list to talk about, I forgot to say that before we came on here, but is it the case that some Chelsea fans are just used to Chelsea winning games? They're used to us winning trophies. They're used to us playing amazing, sexy football, if you want to call it sexy football, whatever it is. They're used to us doing that over the past, 10, 15, 20 years under Roman Abramovich. Is it just a case that people's expectations are just high? They're just too high than they are. Is it a case of lowering the standards a little bit and just understanding we're not the club that we once were 20 years ago?
Yeah, I think there is a bit of that. I mean, when we first got Graham Potter those first few months and we were talking about that transition period, kind of lowering our expectations. This is going to be a period of transition. It's going to take at least a season or two before we kind of hit the ground running and play the football that Potter wants us to play. And that kind of made me realize that, I'm going to have to get used to this word transition. It's not going to be that guaranteed top four like it used to be back in the Carlo Ancelotti days, the Mourinho days. And so I think Chelsea fans kind of accepted that last season. And then we had that good preseason under Pochettino. I think we had that good draw at and kind of where we played some good football against Liverpool on the opening day. And then I think yesterday's defeat was a bit of a reality check, and maybe it is a question again of maybe fighting for a Europa League or top 6 position and not going to be a guaranteed top 4. I still think our expectations should be high this season. We splashed out so much money. But like I keep saying, the competition around us has gotten so strong. You look at Villa, you look at Newcastle, you look at Brighton. Those are teams that weren't lurking around the top 4 maybe 8-10 years ago, but now they are. And those are teams that we're going to be competing against. We can't really be beating West Ham away. Realistically, those are teams that we're going to have to look at ourselves and think, can we get the 3 points against them? But yeah, like I just said, though, I still think we need to have high expectations, given the money we spent, given the talent we brought in. But we also need to kind of accept that these kind of results are going to happen. The squad is still very, very young. I think it's the lowest kind of average age we've had since God knows when. Very inexperienced team, and we're going to have to kind of learn from these type of mistakes as a kind of collective as well.
I agree to some extent, and I was with you, before. I think watching the game against Liverpool, watching yesterday's game against West Ham, it kind of gave me a bit more of a reality check. I already had that sort of idea, like we should be pushing for Conference League or even Europa League football. But I just think we've had a squad that has had a massive overhaul of players, managers, backroom staff, owners. Move on, come in, change things. It hasn't worked with Graham Potter. We've moved on. We brought Frank Lampard in. It didn't work. Interim. We've moved on. We've brought in Pochettino. And the fan base are panicking. I'm looking online. I spoke to you offline early this morning. I didn't go on Twitter yesterday. I didn't go on Instagram yesterday because I couldn't. I just couldn't do it because I'm at that point where, everyone's going to be annoyed after the game, aren't they? Everyone's, you want your team to win every single game that they, come up against, and you want them to do well. And let's be honest, we played well. We played really good football yesterday. Let's take some of the positives. We played really good football. If that was, Potter, other managers as well, we could have got hammered 3-0 just in the first half a couple of seasons ago. If we go 1-0 down, what used to happen, we used to just crumble like a cookie and we wouldn't do anything. Whereas we fought back, we got into the game, we were unlucky in some spells. But I just think the fans now, I think, you go online and it's this spoiled entitlement that we should just win games because we're Chelsea. I agree, we should, but you've got to be realistic as well. We've got to be realistic in the fact that we've lost a lot of players. key leaders. You spoke about it. I spoke about it on here before, that the leaders that we've lost in the team, voices in the dressing room. There's a lot of change. Youngsters, or say younger players coming through, inexperienced to the league. It's a lot to factor. And I just think, look, I've been there as well. I've said, let's just get this person, let's go and get that person. This isn't Football Manager or FIFA. You can't just bring in a player because Nicholas Jackson hasn't scored in back-to-back games. That's not reality to me anyway. That's just, let's give him the time. Let's give Pochettino out was some certain things. I did go on Twitter straight after the game. And that's why I stayed off it. But Pochettino out, Moises Caicedo, he's fumbled everything. He hasn't played a game for 2 months. I just don't get it. So maybe I'm from a different, and I know you have as well, but we've both watched Chelsea at times where we've through highs and lows, and you've been through, been 2 games, highs and lows. You've been there when we've been at our darkest days with certain times with the Abramovich as well. Is it just a case of entitlement because we're Chelsea? Do you think some of the fans are just, I don't want to call them spoiled brats, but that's what they are. They just think, we're Chelsea, we can go throw 100 million at this player and that player and it solves our problems. That hasn't worked. We've spent close to £1 billion in the space of 24 months, maybe 36 months, and we still look like a team that would struggle against Everton right now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like, I try to stay away from social media, especially after the match days, but sometimes I do also want to get a bit of a feedback from kind of the accounts that I do kind of value their opinions. But yeah, yesterday it was toxic. It was toxic. You had people slating every single player that plays for Chelsea. You had certain hashtags like Pochettino out trending, which I think is ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous on match day 2 of the Premier League. And like you said, we played some really good football. Really good football. If that was Potter, we're not scoring that Chukwuemeka goal to come back into the game. We're crumbling like a cookie, like you said. So I think the signs are there. They're promising, and I think the kind of scoreline maybe doesn't actually reflect the performance. I felt, because I felt like we were kind of in the game until the very end. I mean, single out some individual performances that I thought were brilliant. Sterling, a player that was really kind of underwhelming last season, I thought he was brilliant, making those runs, winning us some fouls in dangerous areas. And something I've always kind of criticized him for is not creating enough chances and not getting himself in kind of like goal scoring kind of places on the pitch or areas of the pitch. And he was doing that yesterday. And I think even Pochettino singled him out and said he had a really good performance and praised him. Chukwuemeka looked really solid, looked like he'd been playing in the Premier League for years in a way. And I know that really unfortunate to have that knee injury, and it looks like it's pretty serious. We saw that he left the stadium on crutches, and he really struggled to even get off the pitch with 2 kind of people from the medical team assisting him off. So very unfortunate. But no, I thought it was a decent performance. I know that we lost 3-1. I know we lost in a London derby. I know we lost to West Ham, who were in the kind of lower bottom half of the table last season. But like I said, I think that's a much better performance than we were having last season. And I'm sure the 3rd goal is a bit of a consolation in a way. We kind of let our heads down, and Caicedo was a bit clumsy. And like you just said, he hasn't played football in over 60 days. We've got to expect a bit of rustiness from him. We've got to kind of get him to gel with these players on the training pitch before kind of playing him again. So I think I'm not going to kind of judge him on that performance at all. There's a few other players that I will start to judge that I've got question marks. I know that I've kind of spoken to you offline about him a lot, but Mudryk for me. And I'm not one of those Chelsea players Chelsea fans that's going to post some very kind of reactionary content or tweet online. But I am going to say that we need to start asking ourselves, when is he going to start to perform? He's had almost a year now in Premier League, and I haven't seen any kind of sign of him improving his performances. There was that one game against Liverpool back in January, those 45 minutes where he looked brilliant. There was that one assist and goal he had against Brighton in pre-season in the US. But other than that, what's he done? I mean, maybe playing devil's advocate in his defense, he hasn't had a consistent run out in the first team. He's kind of he plays one game, then he's benched for the next one, then he plays the next one, then he's benched for 2 games. But I think we haven't seen enough of him to make the manager or the rest of the team think like, okay, he can play for the next, consistently. He's the first name in our starting 11, because right now he's not. And I think he needs to just kind of mature a bit, focus on his football, and win the fans back, or kind of show the fans and Chelsea and the club and the manager why they spent 80 god knows how much million on him back in January. Because right now I'm seeing nothing to make me realize that that's money well spent.
Yeah, it's a strange one, because I think I said when we signed him, I didn't know much about him. I'm not going to say that I did, or I was excited for him to come. I was more excited that we poached him from Arsenal, if I'm honest, and Arsenal were keen to get him, and we seemed to get that deal over the line. And I think he did come with a lot of promise, a lot of expectations and things like that. And I think it is difficult coming into the Premier League, but I agree with you. I think we need to see something from not just Mudryk. I think Madueke, another one who, I watched him in the international tournament. I think it was the Euros in the summer, and does everything right until the final pass into the box. And again, yesterday was very similar. But I don't want to just say that it was him. I think I agree with you. Sterling, for me, probably the best game arguably he's had in the Chelsea shirt since he signed. And I thought he looked like the Man City Sterling, the one that we wanted to get out, the one that we wanted to, the one that was arguably the best player at the Euros a couple of years ago. That's what we needed from Sterling last season, and he needs to see him do that more consistently this season as well, especially the money that he's on. I did see, again, going back to fickle fans, I did see someone criticize Sterling yesterday, and I thought, well, this is a player that, yes, previously deserved every bit of criticism, but when he's putting in a shift, let's not bring up his wages. His wages isn't determined by him. Yes, he might say, I want 300 grand, but if the club's stupid enough to give it to him, then that's the club. I didn't get that. I don't understand why someone would criticize a player that, for me, was one of our best players yesterday. Carney I thought was brilliant. Enzo in spells looked okay. I think frustration for me, I went back and checked last night. Every game we played in the summer series against Dortmund as well and against Wrexham in the preseason was a 4-2-3-1 formation. Something that Pochettino, time at Spurs, his time at PSG, he was his most familiarly used tactic that he used. He'd tweak it every now and again, but that was the tactic he went with, and he done that for us throughout preseason, and it worked. Okay, we had Santos in that midfield as well. I think Carney Chukwuemeka, obviously, and Nkunku was a big part of that, but it puzzles me that we've gone back to this weird three centre backs. Levi Colwill almost playing as a left back yesterday. Chilwell pushing high up the pitch, Malo Gusto playing high up the pitch, and it just left Thiago Silva, who's nearly 39 years of age, to do a massive job. Two players that, Levi Colwill was brilliant, and so is Disasi as well. Two brilliant defenders, but when you've got someone like Silva who's got to cover a lot of ground, you expect him to do a lot. It just doesn't make any sense. Why would Pochettino go from something that's clearly worked in other clubs and for us, 3-4-2-1, if you think about the wing backs yesterday? Can you understand the rationale behind that in terms of playing a system throughout preseason that's clearly worked to then go from that to this back five that Liverpool, I understand, but against West Ham, did we need to do that? I don't think we did.
Yeah, it is a tricky one. I feel like it did work so well against Liverpool. We dealt with the threat of Jota, Salah, Gakpo and Nunez when he came on. And maybe Pochettino wants to replicate that against Bowen, Antonio, Benrahma. And to a certain extent, at times it did work. I feel like Benrahma was kept really quiet. Antonio the same until his goal, which he took very, very well. And I think, again, question marks on Disasi's defending. I felt a lot of people were pointing the finger to Sanchez, but I felt like Disasi could have done better. And same could be said for the Luis Diaz goal last weekend as well. So that's two kind of mistakes now I felt like he's made, but maybe he's a type of defender that plays better in a back two alongside another centre back rather than have the kind of openness of the wing backs going up, bombing up the pitch and kind of leaving so much kind of space on either wing. But maybe as well, I don't think we saw it last season. All our goals, they came from defenders, they came from wing backs. And I think it's going to be similar this season. Now that we've got Nkunku out injured and until Jackson kind of finds his feet and starts scoring goals, I think we're going to be seeing a lot of assists and goals come from the likes of Chilwell, Gusto, and potentially Reece James when he's back and fit as well. I look at Ben Chilwell, he plays his best football from a left wing back. He was putting in crosses into the box. He's the one, I think, who had the assist for Disasi last weekend. So I do think that formation favours our kind of wing backs and allows a lot more attacking threat from them. But yeah, you look back at Pochettino and the history of his formations and preseason, and what we did so well in preseason was a back four. So I think it's not going to be too long. Maybe Luton might be the good game to kind of switch back, go back to a back four and have that one extra kind of body in midfield, the like of an Andre Santos, the like of a Lavia, Caicedo, now that they're in the team and they be added to the roster. So yeah, I think Pochettino is not going to be long until he switches back to his preferred formation.
I think we should have done it yesterday. I think, and I get why. Obviously Caicedo, like we said, hasn't played for near enough 2 months. He hasn't had the minutes. Gallagher done okay like against Liverpool. Done okay yesterday in some spells as well. But I just think it offers you more going forward. And one of the things we've been screaming and been saying for nearly 2 seasons now is we don't create enough chances. With the lack of goals. Yesterday I noticed, when Chilwell was putting the ball in the box, Gusto, Sterling, and Mudryk when he came on, there was two players in the box. You'd have Jackson or you'd have someone else in the box, or there'd be no one in the box. I think there was a cross that Mudryk crossed in from the left. It ended up with Raheem Sterling on the right. It was just crazy to see, and I think that might be a bit of naivety from Jackson as well. Forget he's 22. I think, it's obviously coming to a different style of play, different league, different team. But he has to be busting a gut to get on every single cross. He should be the one that should be. He's got the strength, he's got the athleticism, he's got the physique, whatever you want to call it, to get beyond the defender, beat your man and get in front of the goal and try and score. And I didn't see enough of that yesterday. I mean, he done well. I thought his hold-up play was brilliant. He kept drifting into midfield, which I liked. He's doing that sort of Harry Kane thing that I criticised last season, but I think he had to do that because of the formation we were playing. He wasn't going to get much of the ball, wasn't getting much service. I mean, he did. He wasn't in the box to receive it. But I just think, like I said, before we came online, there was a couple of people saying, no, he might be a winger. He might be better as a winger. And I'm just thinking, this is a man that clearly can score goals. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to be prolific. I don't expect him to get 15 or 20 goals this season, but he does everything right. I just think you hit a good point earlier about Mudryk, who, for me, is someone that should be able to put a ball on the plate for someone. Sterling, was given the given goals were working yesterday. He done really well, especially that first half, the 1-2s and trying to get the ball in the box. But even in the second half, that deflated really quick. As soon as the second half kicked off, we weren't seeing that from Sterling. Carney Chukwuemeka going off, I think, changed the game for us a lot. I think, he was playing really well. Like you said, the goal that he took, we wouldn't have scored that last season. I'm still certain that Jackson has a role to play. I just don't know if he's the guy that I think needs to lead that, that line, be the number 9 striker for us throughout the rest of the season. I think he's got a role to play. I just don't think we can start him every game. But what are the choices? I mean, we've been linked with quite a lot of strikers over the last 12, 18 months. Who can come in? We've had this we keep having the same conversation time and time again about the strikers and who might be able to come in as that player. And obviously Amanda Brew is coming back soon, but what are the options going forward?
Yeah, I still think Jackson's that guy. I really do think, until maybe Nkuku comes back from his injury, I think in the last 2 games, I think he's done plenty to show that he's a good player. I mean, you spoke about him on the ball and kind of, getting into decent areas in the pitch, but off the ball, his runs are exceptional. I feel he's very, very quick as well. You look at most of the time, like he gets into the dangerous areas of the pitch, and I think that's something we didn't have last season. We didn't really have a natural number 9 or a player who was making those off the ball runs and asking for the ball to his feet. I think it's good to see that Poch has confidence in Broja. When he was asked about his striking options, he said we need to remember we've still got Armando Broja and he's going to be part of my plans, or he said something along those lines. So I think he's definitely going to play a part in this season once he's fit again. And hopefully come December we'll have Nkuku. But I think I did read that Poch was to add one more attacking player to the squad. Number 10. I don't know if that's like a Shekri from Lyon, if that's a Kudos from Ajax, with the João Felix kind of transfers rumors revive all of a sudden as well. So yeah, it will be interesting to see who he does get. And I think now probably comes off the back of that Chukwuemeka injury as well, because it did look bad, like I said at the beginning. But yeah, we are maybe slightly thin going up at the top of the pitch. And that just kind of like begs the question, will we kind of buy another striker now or come January, should these problems persist in front of goal as well?
I'm gonna get criticized for this, but I think if we have to sell Lukaku.
Yeah.
I think we have to sell him. We can't keep him. If we keep him, we have to play him. And that's just, I don't want to play him. I don't think he should be in the team, but we can't have someone who we know can score goals sitting in the reserves. And I know I flip-flop a lot because when we talk, I say, let's get rid of him. I said that on one of the podcast episodes, but we can't have someone who's on that big of money, not being played, who will just run his contract down. He'll stay there, sitting on the bench, and he won't want it. Let's play him. Let's play him. If we don't sell him, and I'd be very shocked if we don't, because I think this would, this will be the worst transfer for me in Chelsea history. This will be even worse than the Felix loan that we got last season if we don't sell him, because what are the alternative options for him? I don't want him just sitting around taking money out of the club every week and he's not playing. I agree with you. Jackson looks like a very good striker, but I just don't know. And another worry as well is if we lose Jackson to an injury, let's say he gets injured against Luton or whoever, I mean, we are literally talking about playing Raheem Sterling as a false nine for X amount of games or whatever. It's worrying, you know, and I think it goes back to that sort of, you know, we brought a lot of youngsters in, and I agree we needed, you know, to bring some quality and, you know, nurture them, send them out on loan. You know, Caicedo at Leicester did really well, but we needed a striker. We knew we needed a striker, and we know even more so now, not to blame Sanchez for yesterday, but even more so, we need a goalkeeper. I think Bettinelli is injured at the moment as well. So we need these areas sorting. You know, great, we've got a lovely bit of midfield, and we've got, you know, players on loan here, there, and everywhere. That's great. But the club that we all follow and support is going to suffer in the long term. But I think by doing that, and it will suffer even more if we keep someone like Lukaku on the books and not playing him, because all he'll do is depreciate. We're going to get less for him. Let's put him in a shop window. Let's force him to play. Let's force him to play. I think we should do that. Let's force him to play football and get abused every week. And maybe he might score a few goals.
I'm not sure about this. I would hate to see him back in it. Yeah, no, it's interesting. It is interesting because, like you said, he's a depreciating asset. It's either we sell him now or we just have him sitting, you know, in the reserves at Cobham, earning his £350,000 or £400,000 a week. It's a lot of money. We can't afford it. But I think he's got an offer on the table from Juventus and an offer on the table from Saudi Arabia, and I'm not sure he's keen to accept either one at the moment. And then I think Pochettino said something along the lines of all those players that don't want to be at Chelsea aren't allowed any contact with the first team, which I think was the likes of Lukaku, Ziyech, and maybe Hudson-Odoi sits in that group as well. And because he thinks that they're a negative kind of they'll have a negative impact on the first team. And I think that's great. You look at, you know, all of the Hakim Ziyech kind of social media activity in the last few days and what Aubameyang posted about him, what he did about, you know, unfollowing Chelsea a second after he'd signed his Galatasaray contract. It proves a point. These players don't want to be at Chelsea. They clearly don't. And why would you want a player who doesn't want to be at the club playing week in, week out on the pitch? You want players that want to give 100%, that want to represent the badge. And Lukaku's not that guy. He's not that guy. He'll probably just walk around the pitch. He probably won't celebrate if he does score. Or he'll do his little shush celebration to the fans and post some cryptic Instagram story. I don't want to see that. I'd rather not have a striker than Lukaku. I'll be completely honest. Completely honest.
I think from a Chelsea perspective, when I say Chelsea, I'm talking football fan perspective, I agree with you 100%. But if I'm thinking about, do I want to be talking on this channel week in, week out, screaming, we need a goal scorer, we need goals, and we've got someone who we know can tuck the ball in the back of the net, then the part of me might be thinking, let's just play him and see what he does. But I do agree, and I've always said, and I've even online, go back and listen to the podcast, I've said that this guy should be at the club. He should be nowhere near the club. And it's just difficult because I don't want an asset that you just said is on 300, 350, 400 grand a week. He's still in the living. He'll just run his contract down. And I can't remember how long he signed for. Was it 4 or 5 year deal at the time? It was a 5 year deal.
Something like that, yeah.
And he's 2 years into it. So another 3, maybe 2 years left. That's a lot of money to just hemorrhage away as someone that you don't want at the club. So I don't know. Something's got to be worked out in the next 2 weeks, 14 days, whenever it is. But we've got to get rid of him if that's the case. But you mentioned injuries. And whenever we pick up an injury, it always seems to be the worst case scenario in terms of injuries. And when we talk about, you know, Reece James, we talk about Amanda Broya. You know, now we're talking about Carney Chukwuemeka, another player that has just sort of got himself into that team, been playing really well throughout preseason. I mean, it looked like a nasty one. It could have possibly been avoided. And I say that because I think the way that the two players lunged in for that ball, I don't know you want to do that. It's a competitive sport, but I just think these injuries are coming thick and fast. And is it a case of our medical staff, which we talked about before on a previous episode? But it just seems to be happening. You know, we don't pick up like an injury where they're out for 3 days and they're back for Luton. You know, they're out for one game. These games that they're missing are normally lengthy periods of time. So is it just a case of too many games? You know, we seem to be losing a lot of players quickly.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be a mix of things. I've spoken about the medical staff at length. I feel like since Eva Carnero kind of got her, she left the club. It just seems we've picked up so many injuries since then, and lengthy periods of time. You don't know what the kind of the rehabilitation process is with these players, what they're doing off the pitch to kind of allow their bodies to have, seem so weak as well. I mean, the Nkuku one, it felt like it was very avoidable. That wasn't a football pitch we were playing on in the US. It was some kind of baseball or NFL pitch.
Concrete.
Concrete. The surface just looked terrible. Yeah, it looked like they were playing on some kind of sand dune or something. But yeah, I think it's something that's avoidable. But also, you've got to kind of wonder now the manager, how he kind of the manager, the kind of coaching staff, the medical staff, how you speak to the players, how they ask them, how is your body feeling? Do you feel you can play another 90 minutes? What's your kind of a lengthy period, time that you think you'll need to recover? I mean, you look at Reece James last season, huge injury, first game back, injured. And that was so avoidable, you think. Clearly, he wasn't ready to play again. You would have thought maybe this season he was, but we know that Reece James is going to be that player now. We're going to have to accept that he won't play the majority of our games, and that's why we had doubts about the captaincy. I still think it's a nice, good decision given the kind of long-term vision of the club, but he's not going to be our captain for maybe 60% of the games this season, I say. And then you've got Ben Chilwell, who's our vice captain, and we saw him come off at half-time or just after the second half. So we're going to need like a vice captain because it's going to look in that way. I think Enzo finished with the armband.
I think I messaged you and said Enzo captain. I mean,
oh gosh, yeah. But we need to talk about the penalty because I've got a lot to say about this. Yeah.
We are going to talk about the penalty. Depends which one. I mean, obviously the West Ham one was a penalty. We know that it was unavoidable by Caicedo. I think he lunged in with the wrong leg, in my opinion. But at first, I did think the Raheem Sterling penalty was actually not a penalty. It's only when I've rewatched it and a couple of times on the replay, but first time seeing it, I thought, oh, it's outside the box. I think we might just get a free kick. But talk to me about the penalty, because obviously the tweet that you put up yesterday, was it yesterday? Today?
Yesterday evening, yeah.
It blew up. And I think you've got a very valid point. And I think anyone who, I've been reading some of the comments today about, it's not encroachment because, there's no Chelsea players around him, or it's not encroachment because X, Y, Z. And let's be honest, we've seen these penalties retaken half a dozen more times last season. I'm struggling to even understand what their explanation for what it actually means, because they're saying, I think, that the Chelsea players aren't around. I think it's Souček, I think, that's in the box or he's about to enter the box. Now, they're saying that there's no Chelsea players around him. Surely that gives the West Ham player more advantage to be able to do what he's about to do and clear the ball. I don't get it. What's your thoughts?
And it gives him a head start to get into the box and clear the ball in the first place. It doesn't make sense. So to clarify things, the penalty line, the line that goes around the box, that counts as being inside the box. So if you look at the other West Ham players, their feet are behind the line, which is fine. Souček's body is ahead of the line and his trailing foot is on the line, which classes as being inside the box, which for me was encroachment. I initially thought that was encroachment because he's inside the box when Enzo makes contact with the ball. And then he's the player that then clears the ball from Areola's save when he parries it to the side. So I thought that was encroachment. And then he asked, I think, the pundits at halftime, and they kind of were struggling to even understand the rules themselves. But I think they came up with the explanation that there was no Chelsea player around Souček to kind of put the pressure on him. So he was given all the time in the world to clear it. I went back and watched the highlights of Chelsea against Dortmund at Stamford Bridge last season when Havertz had his penalty retaken because I think it was Wolf or one of the Dortmund players clears the ball after it hits the post. There are a few Chelsea players around him, but the closest one is maybe 2 meters, 3 meters next to him. So, and then I went on the FA website and I looked at the rules around penalty kicks, encroachment, all of this, and there's nothing about having a player a certain distance from you when you clear the ball if you are encroaching. And for me, encroachment's encroachment. Like I said, the fact he's kind of got almost his whole body in the penalty box, that gives him a head start to make that clearance. Yeah. So there needs to be a lot more consistency, a lot more clarity around these rules. And it almost feels like the FA and the, whatever you call them, the Referee Association, PGMOL or whatever it's called, they need to kind of come out and with some kind of explanation, because right now it just feels like they're making the rules up on the spot. That's how I feel about it. And there was no even, I think, did VAR even review it? Was there kind of an on-screen review? No.
Not for the encroachment. No, I think they just. I think this was only spotted afterwards. So sorry, during halftime. So I mean, the worrying thing here is the referee. Based on that, I know obviously this picture's magnified Souček, but in real time, the referee would be able to see that he's actually in the box. And you'd bet your bottom dollar or whatever that I'm going to try and hover my cursor. So around here or here, or maybe that's in there. I don't know. But the linesman will be here somewhere, you would imagine. It has to be, I think, on that side
or
of the pitch.
Or is he on the other side of the pitch? I don't know.
Either way, he's going to be in line with Souček. He will be 100% because the referee's there. So he won't be where the referee is. He'll be either here or he'll be here. One of the two. What I'm struggling with is the player who's cleared the ball has had an advantage of getting in the box. So the rule that they've come out with to say that, oh, because no Chelsea players are around him, it's okay. Surely if it was the other way around and Chelsea players were around him, then it would make sense to me. But there was no Chelsea players there. I don't get it.
Let him be next to Sanchez then. If he, literally let him be like in the penalty box, like behind Enzo Fernandez, if that doesn't class as encroachment.
The worrying thing as well is that there's no consistency. I mean, I'm not just talking, this isn't just a Chelsea thing. I was watching I'm the most fairest Chelsea fan because when Nicholas Jackson first game of the season against Liverpool, I mean, I said that was handball. I said it was a clear handball. Referee didn't give it. I think they gave one the same weekend against Brighton, which was very similar. I mean, at this time last week, Man United Wolves were about to kick off. How Onana got away with the foul, a clear and obvious penalty was missed by it, and then they go and book Gary O'Neill. I mean, we're talking about it second game into the season, but, if we're talking about, us missing out on, Champions League or, let's just say we go on an amazing run, Pochettino goes unbeaten for the rest of the season and we're actually competing for City for the league. We're talking about, points dropped. And these kind of, I know everyone keeps saying, I read a few of the comments on that post earlier and everyone's saying, well, if Enzo scores it, we're not going to be talking about it. I actually probably would, because at the end of the day, it's still inconsistency from the referees. Enzo 100% should score that penalty. I kind of said when he stepped up, he wasn't going to score. The run-up was very weird. He sort of opened his body up, so he kind of gave goalkeeper the opportunity to know where he's going to place the ball. But it doesn't matter whether he scores or not. The point is the rules are the rules, and the rules have to be followed in football. Surely that's just common sense.
Yeah, it's not, like you said, it's not just Chelsea. I agree. The Jackson one for me, that was a penalty. I think they tried to explain it how it was close proximity and he tried to keep his hands close to his chest, but it still deflects the ball out of the kind of way of the trajectory of the goal. Onana, Stonewall penalty, wrecking ball challenge on I think it was it Nathan Collins, the Wolves defender? And I think even there was a handball, a Tottenham defender against United, very similar to kind of the Jackson one. I thought that was going to be a pen again. Maybe you could kind of use this new close proximity rule as the reason why it wasn't. But I can guarantee you, when the Champions League starts in September, all of these decisions we're seeing, there'll be that penalty would have been retaken. All those handballs, they would have been given as penalties. Had Onana done that in the Champions League, straight penalty, maybe even a red card potentially.
Red card. It's assault.
It's the standard of refereeing in the Premier League compared to the Champions League it's non-existent. It's so different, and that's why I think that our league, known as the best league in the world, we've probably got the worst refereeing in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I said to you, I think earlier I said to someone that I'm falling out of love with football in the Premier League because it's just very, I mean, last Monday night last week was probably one of the worst refereeing decisions I think I've witnessed in 30 plus years of watching football. And I've seen some really bad ones, but that one was, I mean, anyone, my kids 4 and 5 would have gave that as a penalty. It was that bad. Like, there's no getting away from it. And there's, 50, 60,000 people in the stadium, millions watching at home. You've got VAR, which is there to do the job, which it isn't doing. But that's a prime example. I mean, that tweet there pretty much sums up what Dermot Gallagher, who I think covers the Sky Sports News morning show on a Monday. He does Ref Watch on there. I think he kind of just backs up what you were saying as well, in terms of no Chelsea players being near him when it was cleared. It was obviously fine. Should be retaken. You know, I mean, it's crazy.
Same fixture last season. Same player that's circled there. Do you remember what happened?
You're gonna have to jog my memory here. I probably blacked out.
He played second goalkeeper alongside Fabianski.
Yeah.
Susek, when Gallagher tried to shoot, it bounced off his arm.
Yeah.
How far didn't look at that? Then he actually said afterwards they made a mistake and then they should have given it as a penalty. It's all good saying afterwards, oh yeah, we made a mistake, it's a penalty. Yeah. But we're talking about the thinnest of margins when it comes to teams now competing for top 4, dropping points, collecting points. It's not good enough. It's not good enough at all.
We're talking about millions of pounds. People should surely realize now no new gimmicks is going to solve PGML's long-standing issue, incompetence. Daniel Childs, you deserve a pat on the back. You've got common sense. Enzo could have made the penalty too, you know? Yes, he could have. Very good point. Why would we ever rely on referees to be consistent when I'm going to stop there. The reason why you should be having consistent referees is because then you end up with referees who want to cheat in the game and give more decisions to other teams. So you do need that consistency. So not relying on them, but they should be there. They're there to do a job. So I'm not going to read anymore because I think that's why I got annoyed and stopped reading Twitter yesterday. But it's a very good point. I think there's a lot of good discussions on that point there. And I'm not saying that everyone who has tweeted or quote tweeted on that is wrong or incorrect, but I just think rules are rules. I mean, the rules are there to be followed and referees are there to do a job. Am I saying that would have meant we would have won the game and got 3 points? Probably not. But I think when you go 2-1 up against West Ham, I think the way that we've been playing in the preseason, the way that we played against Liverpool and under Pochettino so far, I think we would have gone on to maybe score another third goal and could probably kill the game. So yes, people are saying that, yes, Enzo should score that. I agree. But when you're 2-1 up, it's a totally different game to when you're 2-1 down. I don't know. Lost for words.
Yeah, no, Enzo should score. I agree, but we could have said the same about Havertz against Dortmund. Then he got to retake it and scored, and no one says, "Oh, Havertz missed that penalty." So it just feels like, it's really frustrating. It's really frustrating how you said that. I've maybe leveled up the game potentially to 2-2. Or I think we would have gone 2-1 up at the time.
2-1
I think it was 2-1 up, and you think it's a completely different game at 2-1 up. Maybe we go a bit more defensive, less attacking. We would have allowed Antonio all that space and time on the ball. So yeah, really frustrating afternoon. I think that's really what highlighted the kind of frustration for me, that decision, and the fact that I think it's not getting enough coverage as well. And that's why I wanted to put that tweet up. And I'm glad a lot of Chelsea fans are actually agreeing with the tweet as well, because a few people are saying, these are the rules. Nothing would have happened. There was no one around Susek, but rules need to be rules, and kind of guidance and instructions need to be followed as well.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, it's difficult to take. Like I said at the very start of this, I'm not panicking. I'm not worried. I'm not. I mean, am I worried that we're where we are in the league? Possible, but I think to panic at this point, 15th, and to say that sack Pochettino or we've got to start. I don't think we need to do any. I think literally we just need to get. I mean, we've got some injuries. We've got to think about the injuries we've got as well. When we spoke about them in depth, we spoke about the injuries we picked up, but not when are they returning. Some of these players aren't coming back till Christmas. I think Luton's a good test. We've got a good run of games coming up over the next couple of weeks, and I think maybe the 21st of October for me personally is the biggest test we'll have this season so far. I think it's against Arsenal. I think that's the 21st or some point in October. I'm not worried. I'm really not. My expectations this season is we finished 12th last season. I think that's the bar. I'm sorry, Chelsea fans. That is the bar. This is the bar that we've set ourselves. We finished 12th last season. So if we finish 11th or 10th, I'm taking it as progression. And that's just being a realistic Chelsea fan that isn't going to throw his toys out the pram every game. That isn't going to go and say, right, because we've lost or we lost against West Ham, we need to go and spend another 300 million. Because these are the things I'm seeing online or on Twitter. We need to go and get Oshiman, who clearly has just said that he's not going for less than 120, 130 million. Next season, everyone's going to be crying about FFP and we're banned or we can't sign any players or whatever. Let's just get the team working well, gelling well, getting the players back from injury, giving Pochettino time as well. I mean, he's had a preseason and 2 Premier League games to get a team together with injuries as well. One of them was against Liverpool that we didn't lose against. We haven't beat West Ham, I don't think, since 2021. I think you're the stats guy, or the Timo Werner.
April 2022, Pulisic at Stamford Bridge after a Jorginho missed
But
penalty.
not at their stadium. We haven't.
Yeah, first. Timo Werner, April 2021. Yeah,
there we go. So it's not like we go there and we turn them over every game anyway. I don't think we've got the best record at, I was going to say Upton Park, what's it, the London Stadium. I don't think we've got the best record there. So fans, please calm down. Don't worry. It's okay. We're okay. This is not panic stations. If this is December and we're still sat in 15th and we're still sitting on 6 or 7 points, of course, panic. We're 2 games into a season, one against Liverpool, who, to be fair, we probably all expected that were going to give us a thrashing on the day. Let's just calm down. Enjoy the football. Have a pint.
Match week 2. It's only match week 2.
Yeah, let's before we wrap up, before we go, because obviously not here for Luton, what would be your lineup for Luton? What's your expectation from that game?
I think Caicedo needs to start it. I think we saw he was rusty against West Ham, but he was kind of in a whole team that was just pushing for a goal, leaving a lot of space. He was probably under pressure. His first kind of game in a Chelsea shirt, but I think I'd have Caicedo. I'd have a back 4. I think this time we've experimented with the back 3, and it worked at times, but not so much at others. I think Chile needs to start. I think he was rested for a large portion of the second half, but he's our captain now. He needs to start. So I'd have Chile, Colwell, Silva, Malo Gusto, who we haven't really spoken about enough, but I still want to see more.
Right. I
think he was okay.
He put some really good tackles in.
Yeah,
as well.
Yeah, I suppose so. Question marks over his haircut, though. I'll say that. I was asking this.
I'm not one to talk about hair, so I'm going to leave that to you. But
the women have to tie up their hair in the World Cups, but the men can have it long. I was asking myself that question, but yeah, I think he'll start. And then midfield, Caicedo. I'll actually still stick with Gallagher and Enzo. I think there's no reason why you should drop Gallagher. And then Sterling, potentially Madueke and Jackson. Am I missing one?
Yeah, you're missing an attack. And I mean, I personally, I'd put Caicedo, Enzo in your. So I'd have the same back 4 as you. I'd have Enzo, Caicedo. I'd probably go with Sterling, Mudryk. I'd probably have to play Sterling in the middle of those 2. So I'd have Mudryk on the left, Madueke on the right, Sterling behind Jackson. I think. Obviously, no Carney, Chukwuemeka.
Too soon for Lavia?
Yeah. I mean, if that was the case, I'd put Caicedo, Lavia, and Enzo forward in the pitch. I play him higher up the pitch because I think he's dying to be higher up that pitch. He drifts in there every now and again, but I think again defensively, I think this is why yesterday having the 2 holding the DMs, if you want to call them that. I hate all these new things, DMs, 8s, blah blah blah. It's just 2 midfielders, and then have the attackers in front of them, the 3. I think that would have worked, and we would have matched up. I think West Ham done that. I think they had Paquetá, Ben Rama, and they had Jared Bowen just behind Mikel Antonio. And let's be honest, Mikel Antonio didn't do anything apart from score that goal. He only needed 1 chance, and he got down the counter attack when literally balls passed through from Ward-Prowse, who was brilliant by the way yesterday. Ward-Prowse pinged the ball through to him, 1 chance. Colwell felt like he was on the wrong side of his defender. I don't know what he's trying to do. And then Bakayoko 2.0, I can't remember his name now. It's not in my head.
The Sassy,
sorry. But when I'm ahead. Was just, I don't know what he was doing.
And he gives the ball away in midfield to start off.
He
uses the ball in the middle of the pitch, and that's what starts off the counter-attack with Antonio.
Yeah, dangerous game to play against someone like West Ham, who loved to play on a counter-attack. But we shall see. Not West Ham, Luton Friday. Strange one. You're gonna miss it, but
I'll be following from Barcelona Airport, I'm sure. Yeah,
Barcelona Airport. You have to be. Kickoff's quite early. I think 7:30, 8 o'clock. I think 8 o'clock.
8 p.m. So I think it'll be 9 p.m. over there. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sorry, you're behind, not forward. Be good. I mean, you can watch it. Get yourself a Estrella Or cold pint of
Ice cold
something.
Australia. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sure. But anyone who's been listening or watching, yeah, make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you get some views up for us, please, and make sure you hit the Linktree link in the description as well. Podcasts, social accounts are all on there. You can also see them at the bottom of the screen. Theo, enjoy your time away. I'm sure when you come back, we'll be pushing up that table. We'll be pushing up the table.
Fingers
Let's get a
crossed.
good result against Luton. But thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back soon.